While in most parts of Western society, particular headgear doesn't convey individual meaning about the person wearing it, the Catholic Church is one area in which a hat says a lot about the wearer, particularly for clergy. Every Catholic hat has its own history and usage, and what hat someone is wearing can tell you what kind of clergy they are. Take, for example, the zacchetto. Even if you don't know the name, you've definitely seen the zacchetto in almost any photo you've ever seen of the Pope. The zacchetto is a small circular hat worn on the back of the head with a point, originally worn to cover the bald spot of those adorned with the tonsure and keep them from getting cold. The zacchetto was initially woolen and much larger than the modern skullcap, gradually becoming used much more widely during the late Middle Ages. Today, the white zacchetto is worn to signify that someone is the Pope, a red zacchetto to signify a cardinal, and an off-red purple zacchetto to signify a bishop. Additionally, orders with white habits, such as the Norbertines, may make use of the white-colored zacchetto normally reserved for the Pope, and there is also the potential for a black zacchetto to be worn by an ordinary parish priest. During a Catholic Mass, a bishop wears the zacchetto underneath his bishop's hat, which is known as a mitre. If you've ever looked closely at a mitre, you will have noticed two flaps coming off of the back of the hat, which are the infulae. According to the historian James Charles Noonan Jr., these flaps are likely vestiges of the mitre's origin as a cap in ancient Greece, adorned with ribbons to designate athletes. The mitre rose to prominence as religious headgear from the 9 to 1100s, and today serves as a visible sign of the office and authority of a bishop. In the Western Church, the mitre exists in three main forms, which go from most complex to least complex: the precious mitre, the golden mitre, or era frigiata, and the simple mitre, which may respectively be used to designate the solemnity of a particular occasion. For instance, the precious mitre has been worn on grand feasts like Divine Mercy Sunday, while the simple mitre is worn on Good Friday. The simple mitre should also be worn to show deference to a more important bishop. For instance, if one bishop is concelebrating Mass in his fellow bishop's diocese, or if a bishop wears his mitre in the presence of the Pope. Although Western bishops' hats evolved into the recognizable cathedral-like pointed shape of the modern mitre, many Eastern churches saw development that tended more towards cylindrical shapes, including crowns, possibly an imitation of the Byzantine emperor. Yet today, the function of these crowns is similar to mitres, and Eastern Catholic bishops wear them during their own liturgical celebrations. Their liturgy may also feature headgear like the Klobuk in Russian traditions, or the Kalimavkion in Greek traditions, which Eastern bishops wear, in addition to Eastern monastic communities. In non-liturgical settings, it's also common to see the tabia or the soft skufia in a Russian or Greek style on the heads of various Eastern Catholic bishops, depending on the particular expression of Eastern Christianity. Bishops wearing crowns is also not exclusive to the East, as the Pope himself has made use of his own crown, called the papal tiara or the triregnum, a triple crown. The first ring of the crown originated in the 800s as an addition to the Pope's mitre, and was followed in the 1200s by a second crown, and shortly after, a third crown. As the Vatican Press Office described it, the rings represent the Pope's role, firstly as the Father of Kings, secondly as the Governor of the world, and thirdly as the Vicar of Christ. Though the papal tiara has sadly fallen out of fashion, with popes generally opting for a simpler mitre, the tiara is still regularly seen as part of the Holy See's coat of arms and the flag of Vatican City. When celebrating the Mass, while a bishop has both his zacchetto and his mitre, a priest ordinarily does not wear either. Rather, the priest has the option to wear a headdress, also originating from the Middle Ages, called a biretta. The ordinary form of the biretta has 3 horns and a tuft on top, while a 4-pointed version may be used outside of liturgical services to designate a priest who has a doctorate, or as a traditional stylistic choice in certain parts of Spain and France. Additionally, the biretta has historical cousins, which are used in more secular contexts, such as the doctoral cap or the academic mortarboard. Although mostly associated with priests, cardinals and bishops also have their own versions of the biretta. The Pope, however, does not wear a biretta, and instead has access to a fur hat known as a camero, seen in many portraits of various popes. It's also worth noting that like Eastern bishops in the case of the mitre, Eastern priests may make use of alternatives to the biretta that fit their own aesthetic traditions, and it's possible to see an Eastern Catholic priest make use of a Kalimavkion, though likely without the veil, which is called an Epanokalimavkion, that belongs more to monastic and episcopal ranks of clergy. The 3 major hats just mentioned, the zacchetto, the mitre, and the biretta, are some of the most important in the Western Church, and are considered ecclesiastical hats because they are associated with the liturgy. However, clerics also have access to other non-liturgical hats, such as the Cappello Romano, also known as the Saturno. The Saturno is not very commonly worn today, but like other clerical hats, it comes with various colors or stripes to designate different things about the wearer, with the fully red Saturno reserved for the Pope himself. The Saturno should also not be confused with another classical hat, the tasseled Galero. Like the Saturno, the Galero is not commonly seen today, but you can still spot it in the coat of arms of individual bishops and cardinals, with a green one for bishops and the iconic red one for cardinals. One bonus piece of trivia you might be interested to learn about while we are on the topic of headgear is the use of the tonsure. While obviously not a hat, the tonsure is a distinctive Middle Ages haircut and a visual staple of entrance into clerical life. During its heyday, the tonsure would precede the taking of holy orders themselves, but signify that a person was destined for that calling and was entering the clerical state. Although the tonsure was associated with slavery in Greece and Rome, by the 400s to 500s, monks began adopting this haircut precisely to compare themselves to slaves in relation to Christ. The monk's tonsure came in three forms, which were the Roman tonsure, the Eastern tonsure, and the Celtic tonsure, with the Roman tonsure harkening back to Christ's crown of thorns. Thanks for watching this video on clerical headgear. It was one of the most difficult videos to research for me, and the use of James Noonan's The Church Visible was an invaluable resource in helping to draw clear distinctions between different practices. Please consult that book and the resources in the description of this video for further information about this topic.